In fact, I might be one of the greatest guys of all time. Like, I've got a kid in Africa, yeah, that I feed, that I clothe, that I school, that I inoculate for 75 cents a day. Which is practically nothing, compared to what it costs to send them there. You guys are doing great so far. I love performing in Chicago. The only weird thing about performing in Chicago for me is after all my shows, everybody just wants to do drugs with me. I'd be like, Anthony, that was hilarious. I got a joint on me. Let's go smoke it. Hey, Jesselnick, amazing job, as usual. I've got mushrooms in my backpack. Let's eat them. And I've got to keep telling them the same thing I'm going to tell you guys right now. Hey, assholes. I'm fucking famous. Give it to me. I think my friend Jeff is gay. I don't know. I'm so bad with names. Smart crowd. When I was a kid, my friends and I got arrested for vandalizing a graveyard. $10,000 in damages. But we had a great lawyer who knocked it down to criminal trespassing and necrophilia. I make a lot of jokes about death because it's hilarious. My whole family's like that, kind of, you know. In fact, well before I was even born, my great-grandmother threw herself in front of a bus. Police tried to say she was committing suicide, but the family knew that she was just trying to stop civil rights. Yesterday, I accidentally hit a little kid with my car. It wasn't serious. Nobody saw me. And people get weird when kids die. No, that's a fact. That's a fact. Like about a month ago, some kids in my neighborhood were playing hide and go seek, and one of them ended up in an abandoned refrigerator. It's all anybody talked about for weeks. I said, who cares? How many kids you know get to die a winner? I assume you guys all knew who you were coming to see tonight. But if you didn't, you sure as shit know now. Now listen, look guys, I know, I am aware that I must seem like a tough, cold son of a bitch up here. In fact, the only time I've ever cried in public in my entire life was at my mom's funeral. I might be a tough, cold son of a bitch. But that doesn't mean I'm not also one hell of an actor. You know, my mom was a depressed woman. My mom was a very depressed woman. My mom was so depressed, she had the words, "In case of an accident, please do not resuscitate," tattooed across all of her children. I'd say my mom's funeral was like 10, 11 years ago now. Last year, I had her body dug up. Settle a legal dispute with my siblings. Turns out I was wrong. That is illegal. I can't just do that. Now, at this point, I should admit my parents were actually pretty reasonable people when they were raising me. Unless they found drugs in my bedroom. Oof. Then they were high for days. I think the strangest thing in my family was just weird about sex, you know? I was the oldest of 5 kids in a tiny little house. When my parents wanted alone time, they would gather us together, say, "Kids, go play hide and seek," and they'd lock their bedroom door for an hour. Of course, I always knew what was going on in there. I mean, I would hide in their room. My parents are weird about sex. You know? I think the most embarrassed I've ever been in my entire life was the time my mom and dad caught me watching hardcore bondage pornography over their shoulder. And I'll never forget the first time I had sex. You know those stories you hear about kids who lose their virginity to the hot babysitter? I was the babysitter. Yeah, I could have opened with that if I wanted to. But I love my grandma. Loved her very much. My grandma taught me about a lot. Taught me what religion is. Taught me everything you can know about religion. And one quick story, I'll tell you now. When I graduated from high school, my grandma came to me, gave me a big hug, said, "Anthony, I'm so proud of you. You're my first grandchild to get to go to college. What can I do for you? What can I give you before you go to college?" And I said, "Honestly, Grandma, all I need from you is money." Yeah, I know you guys have never been, but college is expensive. And my grandma said, "Okay, Anthony, I understand." So a couple months go by, it's the end of the summer, I'm packing up my dad's car, getting ready to go to school, and my grandma walks up. Says, "Anthony, here, before you leave, take this." And she handed me a brand new Bible, King James Version. And I said, "Thanks, Grandma, that's exactly what we talked about." Got in the car and I went off to school. A couple of weeks go by, I'm hanging out in my dorm room, having a good time, when the phone rings. It's my grandma. She says, "Anthony, just calling to see how college is going." I said, "Grandma, college is the best. I'm having the time of my life. But to be honest, I'm already starting to run low on money. And I could use a little bit, like we talked about." She said, "Okay, Anthony, well, let me ask you this. Have you been reading your Bible? And I said, totally, Grandma. I'm on chapter 4. She said, okay, Anthony. Well, then I guess I'll talk to you later. Hung up the phone. A couple of months go by. Now I'm really starting to struggle financially. I'm gonna have to drop out of school if I don't get some money. So I call my grandma in a panic. I say, Grandma, please, it's Anthony. I'm having the time of my life in college. I love it here. But if I want to graduate, and I do, I need you to send me some money like we talked about. She said, well, Anthony, let me ask you this. Have you been reading your Bible? And I said, yes, Grandma, I wish it was longer. And she said, okay, Anthony. Well, then I guess I'll talk to you later. Finally, it's the end of the school year. I've got straight A's, but I'm dropping out of college because I have no more money left. And I'm furious. I'm close to tears cleaning out my dorm room. When the phone rings, it's my grandma. She says, Anthony, I heard you're dropping out of school today. How come? And I said, you know goddamn well how come, Grandma. Because you wouldn't give me any money. She said, well, Anthony, let me ask you this. Did you read your Bible? And I just hung up the phone. I was so pissed off. Took everything out of that room. The last thing I took off the shelf, the last thing I took out of that room was that Bible my grandma had given me. Took it off the shelf, held it in my hands, and for the first time, I actually opened it up. And right there, on the very first page, in my grandmother's handwriting, it said, fuck you.